Good evening. Welcome to another edition of Diatribes from the Voice of Doom. And now here's your perturbed and cynical Voice of Doom. Good evening, everybody. It's day one. I'm going to call it day one. I may do a daily countdown of how many days. We'll say that this is the year zero, as Pol Pot said back in the day, back in the good old days, 1975. It seemed like a boring year to me, but lots were happening. And I really have no particular direction to go this time again. It's going to be kind of all over the place because I got to get in another Mandarin lesson and talk about just factoids and impressions of some of the hateful scum that I saw on the TV set today, or whatever you call this thing. And just some facts that I really wasn't aware of, and it's kind of almost, there's irony. There's all kinds of things. Strabandoned is a new word I'm going to put in my dictionary. Got to collate some of these words, because I like to make up new words when, the scum and the lowlifes, come up with extreme behavior. Can't be described by words that are in the dictionary, so I had to make them up. Impunicity is one of the words I made up because hypocrisy doesn't cover it, and impunity doesn't cover it, and so impunicity, impunicate. Strabandoned, that means when you are deliberately abandoned and stranded at the same time, and it's done with malice. It's done like, yeah, you're at the gate, but no, you can't get on the next flight, so why don't you go back and come back later? So I heard different things that are maddening, and saw a few things, on the little right-hand side of your screen with all the other videos they suggest that you watch based on what you're watching, so I can just keep going through that and get into different subjects and see, MSNBC is a waste of time and it should be actually destroyed or dismantled, but there's an interesting headline in the video, and I thought, let's just see. They could still possibly be either covering for Petri dish or blaming the previous president, the last president, not previous, last. The last president was blamed, and they will blame him. No matter what, they can look for something from 2017 or 18 or whatever and say, well, see what he did back then? That caused this whole thing. I don't want to get into the details of that because it's ridiculous to argue, and I realized something about people arguing about who's right and who's wrong, whether or not people should be taking accolades for causing a genocide. I should be praised because I started a genocide. Look at me. So we don't have to argue about that, because I realized after a while of just being kind of perturbed with watching people say things that I think are wrong, when they say things like, this couldn't have gone smoother. It was the greatest evacuation in the history of war. And we ended the war, and we're out of war. We're not at war with anyone right now. We're so great. I get mad at people that say things like that, and I'm like, objective reality is objective reality, and that's the way it's going to be. It doesn't matter what opinion you have. If I'm completely wrong, then objective reality will prove me wrong, and the truth will out. I keep saying that, but I don't listen to myself sometimes. I do listen, but I don't think. The truth will out. We don't have to argue with these excrement. Just let them dig their own pit. I don't know, little things. Sri Lanka is in big trouble. They're running out of food because they're in debt to China big time, and I guess somehow they're paying their debt. I don't know what we're doing with our debt to China. I don't see how we could possibly be paying it, but I guess we're paying enough to keep from having to go into the coffers and have the supply chain broken down and having people having to stand in line for food and having the government of Sri Lanka have to, you know, take over private enterprise and confiscate all their food with no compensation and then dole it out at the price they see fit. And they got a Weimar Republic going on with their currency. Just asides, things happen other places too. Now, China loans places a lot of money, and sometimes they knock on the door. The arrears guy with his little briefcase. It's like, well, you got your payment? And they're looking to get more loans from China and Bangladesh. Now, I remember George Harrison did a big triple record set of songs with all kinds of stars to feed the people of Bangladesh, and they're always getting inundated. Every couple of years, something comes through, a typhoon, and just wipes them out. So their karma's good, but I guess they're coming along. And I think I know why. It's the shirts I bought from Walmart. The t-shirts, they're kind of cool with the, weird, designs from Nepal or something. They're made in Bangladesh, so they probably saved their money. Just little things I want to talk about because the big global picture is going to all come together. And people should learn something before the end. I mean, for some reason. But anyway, getting back to the subject, I turned on the MSNBC report and I was immediately sickened and I was going to throw up. But Michael Moore was the guest. And the funny thing is I used to like him back about 500 years ago when I was kind of a liberal anarchist, and I liked his style of going after the powers that be. And I liked his documentaries to a certain extent. And this would probably be around 80, 81, 82, 83, early 80s. I don't know when it was, but I tried to like his TV show, and it was boring. He picked the stupidest subjects. There's a big scandal in the pork belly industry, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. Come on. I'm like, I'm trying to like you, but no. And then when he showed his true colors with the Republicans and how biased he is. And he was on this MSNBC and they did a long interview. Now get this. Michael Moore, quote, "We're blessed to have Joe Biden in the White House," unquote. Quote, "I can't speak more highly about how his true mission, his, I guess, spiritualism is on the side of the hungry. We need him now more than ever." His whole thing is he's a hippie from Vietnam. And he thinks if we're not shooting at it, if we don't have troops somewhere, then there's no war and America's not at war and we're going to use the money that we use at war and we're going to feed people with it. He was real happy that Biden's given more food stamps out than any other president. Well, keep slipping in the tongue. And, I'm not going to call him president because he's far from that. And even presidents aren't that great. I haven't seen a good one except the last one. And I mean the last one. Going nowhere with this. I just was kind of like, this guy is looking at it like we're out of the war and that's the main thing. And it's tragic and my heart goes out, of course. But, the Warriors, and blah, blah, blah. And they did that all day today with the Warriors, making sure that they honored the Warriors. To even think that you're not honoring the Warriors by putting down the greatest evacuation and the greatest bugging out in the history of warfare since Peloponnnesia. Going nowhere. I'll get to the Mandarin. It's more fun. So here's what we'll be listening to very soon. And I got my translator to work so I could actually pronounce it, sort of. We will be saying Jing Xing Chong Yung Ching. That's real Chinese. And it means see, spot, run. I figured we'd start at the beginning. Go backwards. Shida is yes, it's not Shide, it's Shida. Like da, Russia, China, da, Shida. Yes, boo is no, that's easy. Shishini. Shishini is thank you. It's a lot of she sounds, sh sounds, and they use an X and they use a Q. So Xing, Qing, is please. You might have to write some of this down if you're going to remember it, and I would remember it. Because when the new regime comes in, I'm going to want to kind of be able to get on their good side right away. And it's like, oh, this guy's kind of cool. He actually knows our language. We'll keep him. Ni hui fu kong. No, I did it wrong. Ni hui fu tsong. It's spelled Fucong, but it's pronounced Futsong. So like futs, not futon, but ni hui fu tsong. You will obey. Ta me hui fu tsong. They will obey. So if you hear ta me hui fu tsong, and you're listening to the Overlord on TV, and they have a translator below, and it says, to all Americans, we love you, you know what he's actually saying. Ta me hui fu tsong. They will obey. So it's kind of fun. We can watch and see. Maybe you can catch a few phrases from the guy. I'm going to do a little every day because I think it's important. Qatar sends technicians to Afghanistan. Well, that's beautiful. And they're already flying the damn things. We demilitarized them. They won't be able to figure out how to put that wire back on that spark plug. Oh, brother. And the brass, the brass of the brass is actually mind-boggling, and I'm reasonably sure they're aliens because they're not behaving correctly. I don't know, 22. At first I thought I heard 200 something, but I guess it's 22 choir girls from America turned back at gate, now Strabandoned. And I like to think that maybe whatever that unholy alliance that we call a government in the U.S. is thinking that the Taliban will keep it together. They're not going to want to provoke any anger, as if they haven't. They're not going to want to provoke anything by separating all those girls and putting them all different places. I'm not going to give them ideas. I mean, nobody's going to listen, but they might be. Who knows? They might have the technology from Bagram to actually listen to me and go, yeah, everybody watch this guy because he's going to tell us exactly how to do it. So I'm not going to help them, but I'm afraid for these people, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them, because you don't just have Americans, but you have people from other countries that are not Afghani, and they're not Taliban, and they're from other countries, and they're helping with the infrastructure, and they're stuck. And we got all the American affiliates out now. You French people, you get on the stick. Come on. There's lots of people there, and there's not just the people that helped us in Afghanistan, but there's the people that just plain trusted us to have that kind of society, and they kind of went with it, and now they're kind of suspect by the enemy, and they're like, no, you're too comfortable. You're too westernized, so off with your head. So it's day one of the year zero, and I think I said quite a bit. I mean, it was all over the place, but you got a lot of stuff that you probably don't get from these guys that are touting and putting their talking heads together. I like them, you know. It's just they're going to catch up with me, and it's annoying. I'm going to say what I said, you know, a week from now. And I got to struggle to pay the damn bill. And on that issue, I will get ahead of myself and start talking about 10 days from now, which I'm going to predict that our petri dish of putrefied excrement of a diseased jackal will not do a live appearance. For one thing, presidents don't do public appearances anymore. They do rallies. They don't want to go anywhere where they might be booed or might be heckled. They're not going to do it anymore. That's the past. That's not going to happen. So he's not going to be able to show his face in public. Not for the 9/11 commemoration, no. I just can't picture that happening unless they somehow concoct a way to put all kinds of barriers in front because of either COVID is going to sneak in or the Viking guy and his entourage are going to cause. And that's the main thing that we have to worry about. Now that we're out of the war, we can put all our resources into getting to the bottom of this Viking and those people, those hateful people. Smell, according to our old senator, the hell he was, Harry Weed, Dickweed. It's just an insulting rant. I don't know. I'm sure I'll put it up soon and you'll see what I mean. But he won't be coming out live. We won't be seeing him for a while. He's very tired. He's had a hard couple of weeks. So he needs a rest. So that's it. More cynicism and sardonic wit. And you're welcome. And what shall I say? I say, shishi ni. Thank you. See you next time.